into something that we call reality. But then what is reality? What is true or not? So for me, it's like kind of a tribute of something that is important for me, that it's more, I live more in this field of symbolic things or poetic things, or even if it's just coincidence, or even if it's just imagination. I don't care. I think this is so important. I think it's where there's still a bit of magic, and magic is really important in life. Otherwise it's just, it's impossible to live if you don't believe in things that exist and you don't understand them. And for me, I was always very attached to the things that I don't understand. Because I think it's there that it's really the magical. Because otherwise it's just, this works like that, okay, and well, and what? So I like this, this mysterious place, of doubts.
Welcome to the show, Maria.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad to have you on the show. I've been looking through your work and reading about you, and I think you're just a wonderful addition to the show. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on and share your work with us today.
Thank you. It'll be a pleasure to talk with you about my work and for this opportunity. Thank you.
Of course. So before we get started and kind of jump into everything, let's go ahead and take a moment and I'll allow you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, well, so my name is Maria Oliveira. I am Portuguese. I'm living at this moment in Porto, but I come from a small village in the north of Portugal. And, of a small place really isolated around this village that is in a hill. So, this place is very important in my work, as most of my work is I make there. My background is not in arts or photography. Actually, I come from the area of humanities, and everything just happens a little bit by chance. When I was deciding what I wanted to study at university, with everything that I knew at this time about what I want, that in my case was nothing, because I was 17 years old, so I was totally lost, too young to know what I wanted to do with my life, and actually to go to university was already quite a big thing, because I come from a place that in this time was not very normal to study. Actually, I was the first person in my family that could do that, to go to the university. So I was, for me it was already a lot, that meaning a lot. So when I wanted to decide to what I want to study, like like everything in life, the things that you will choose, it's the result of a lot of things. You don't have the whole option. So for example, I never had the contact with arts, because in the school that I was studying, there was not these areas. So for me, arts was not even an option, because it was, something really far away. So at this point, I was very interested in literature and poetry. So this was my first artistic approach. I was, quite in love with that. But then people would say, tell me, okay, but if you go and choose this area to study, probably you will be like a teacher, and and I was not seeing myself very much into this. I liked literature and poetry, but not as a teacher. So I ended up to choose communication sciences, and so I made a degree in this area. Because this would allow me at this time. This was course that was very general. Somehow it had 4 different options, and you later could choose one of them. So for me, it was nice because I was, I could decide later what I wanted. So I ended choosing advertising, and that was. Sorry, something happened here. Oh, it's okay.
Oh, you're okay.
Yeah, it was my computer. Because advertising had 2 things that were important at this moment. In one hand, it was very connected with creativity. It was a creative area, and for me, this was the thing that I wanted most. And further part, it was the writing thing. So I would be a copywriter for advertising, and so with all the dots that I had in this moment, this appears to me like something that could work because I had these 2 things. I could write, and it was something that was creative. But yeah, I never worked in in advertising. I just had some small experiences, and but nothing really serious. Then I started to work in another things, but were more in this academic background. So I always had a job, more or less related with communication, but more, in this academic thing. But talking about the artistic work, the first things I started to do was not photography. It was to write, poetry.
That's awesome. Were you always a writer? Is that just something that came to you, and reader and a writer? Is that something you've always done?
Yes, it was my first approach, the thing that I found in the first place, and I thought, okay, this is nice, and I love it. When I started to read poetry, it was like something new just came into my life, and I felt like, when you feel like something belongs to you, and makes sense. And so I started to write, but nothing special. I never published anything. It was more like for me to express this need of expressing something. I started to do with writing.
When did you start doing that?
Sorry?
When did you start doing that? How young, or when did that find you?
Yeah, while I was studying, at the university.
University, okay.
Yeah, I started to do that. Then I did some small workshops, but it were very important, I think, in my path in writing, because it also allowed me to find new things, new artists, to open my horizons somehow, to other artists, and to work together with other people that in the end we became friends. So this, this thing of creating something together with another person, this creative energy, this was very transformative for me at this point. And photography just came later, and just by chance. While I was doing a short period studying in Brazil, I did it in, 2004, I guess. And I had a class of photography. So I learned, these basic things of developing and, these basic things. But for me, it was at this moment, I was like, whoa, this is nice. I think I thought that this could be a nice medium to work with and to express the things that I wanted to say before, but that this could be, the photography could works better for me than writing. But I never stopped writing, actually. I used to, I still write, and normally it's part of the process while I'm developing photography work, so I do it always both, but I just show photography, but writing is there.
When I look at your work, I almost, it feels like someone I don't know how I'm starting to notice this now, but it feels like you're writing through your photography somehow. And it's very poetic. You know what I mean? And so and I love that about what I was looking at when I first saw it. Listening to you now, I'm starting to make some connections, which I'm starting to really kind of understand a little bit more. And our viewers are about to see it, so they're going to see what I'm talking about. But I'm kind of curious about you before you went to school and stuff. And you said that where you're from, that small town, was really important to you. But also I'm kind of curious, in your family, was there a creative person? Was there an artist? Was being an artist even a part of something in your family, or where did you get that from, do you think?
I don't know. It's a miracle.
Really?
No.
Lightning. That's funny.
I'm kidding, but no, not at all.
No. So what was your family? What did they do? And
my mother always lived in this small place, so she's a farmer. Always did that. And my father lived outside Portugal for the whole life. He was immigrant. Now he's living there again, but so he was just working, constructions and all this. So there's any background in arts at all. I think the only thing I can, so I don't have an answer for that. It's not an obvious thing. Like I think what I think it is, or at least it's important. It was important. It's like. My father, it's a very curious person. So he never studied. He never had this opportunity. He had to start to work very early. But he's a very curious person, and he has something, he wants to know the world, how the world works and what is happening. And he has some kind of poetic vision also that it's not very normal in this environment, and I guess I have this from him. I always wanted to very much to know how the things work and to be very curious about the world and to think about how of the things, to question. And I think this is one of the essential things of being an artist, is to be curious. I think it's not possible to be an artist if you are not curious about the things, the world, to make questions,
That's
why.
Exactly right.
So I think it comes from this. It comes, of course, also of my the experience of being a child and a teenager living in a time that had no internet, not that young anymore. So, and to have this experience in such a small place, so isolated, so. I had to develop this connection with I had long periods of silence that also contribute to the work I do, and this absence of people in my life somehow, because it was just a few houses and my close family. So everything the rest, I think I developed some kind of familiar connections with trees, animals, or wherever. And this emptiness of human presence and this silence, I think it probably contribute, I'm sure, to be more into this introspective thing, and then to lead to the artist approach to poetry. You have to have some kind of calm and silence and deepness to be able to create. I think you cannot be an artist if you are full of, I mean, you can, of course, but I'm just talking about my thing now, my work, and
Sure. You're
I think
talking from your perspective. Yeah. No, but you know that I think I'm always curious where that comes from, and like if you're like a kind of a breakaway, you know, kind of in that regard. Some people it's just been a part of their life since they were really little, and believe it or not, you know, I'm a little older than I look. People say it all the time, but I remember life without internet. It was great.
you
Actually, the
remember.
world. Oh yeah, I had a life without internet and a cell phone. You know, I can't even imagine. You know, a lot of these young people they can't live a life without a
Yeah,
tablet phone or something, and
I think
I
we're,
go ahead.
we have I think we have some. It's a privilege, I think, that we experienced lives before and after. You know, this
Yeah, so much simpler.
it's changed so much. So it's such a big change that I think we are privileged people to experience both.
Yeah, well, it also, you know, it kind of changes it also filters the way we see the worlds, you know, and so much of it we understand but also don't, you know, especially coming from a, let's say, a Gen Z perspective, you know. It's fascinating. It's interesting that you're kind of reflecting on that a little bit. Even in your answer there, you're kind of bringing it up to a certain degree. But I'm also kind of curious how, like, so photography. You found photography. It sounds like by accident in some ways, and well, you took a course in it, and you're like, oh yeah, I kind of want to do this. What what was it that drew you there? And also, like, how did you develop your technique and develop your style, and how did you develop that skill of yours? So talk to me a little bit about that. How did you find it? Well, you told me that, but what drew you there, and what can made you kind of develop that into what it is today?
Yeah. Well, it is a very slow path, you know, because I didn't have this background in photography, or you know, I made this small class, but it was just the basic. So everything I did it, I don't know, a little by myself, you know, a slow learner with a lot of mistakes, very naive too. And I think in somehow in the beginning I was, you know, I didn't know what I was doing, you know, not at all. I was just trying things, exploring, you know, and to be like fascinated, I think, you know, like, but it was really very much for a long period of you know my life and in photography that was very, you know, just trying things. I never had like a strategy or thing that or a way that I wanted to follow, that it was clear for me, you know. It was very much just this playing, I think, you know, playing. Just, okay, so, if I do this, this happens. And, you know, and a lot of, you know, just by myself, and it's a very lonely process
Yeah.
too. That changed in then later that I made a laboratory, a creative laboratory in 2016, and this changed very much the way I was working, and it was also very important for me into my practice. But we can talk about this later. But what I like in photography, even if I was not, I didn't search for photography, it just came to me. And what I was, I was not, normally I don't think very much about the things, you know, to make like a rational, um, you know, answer for the things. I don't move myself very much into these rational things, but I like to think about the things, you know.
Of course, of
Uh,
course.
so what I think it's conquer me in photography was that I don't know. I think it's very connected with some things that are important for me. I think it's very connected with memory, and with death somehow. If you see photography, it's always, I think, a bit of a fragment, something that you take from the reality, something that you choose to take from the world. Somehow you stop things with photography. Some kind of a magical thing that you can take pieces from the world and keep them. And for me, photography has this power, I guess, or symbolically, it's that, it's, and I think it can be really powerful. You have a still image that you take, from something that doesn't exist anymore. So you choose to pick parts of a thing that is not happening anymore. And I find this very powerful.
And I love that what you just said there about, it's like grabbing little pieces, and it almost kind of sounds like you're creating a mood board. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In advertising, you create these like mood boards, right? This is the feeling we want, our colors and stuff like that. And but in some ways, you also do that in literature, short stories and stuff. You grab these moments and you explain them. Poetry can grab emotions and explain them, or at least capture a kind of little moment in these little great little stanzas. You can do that, and so I kind of love what you're saying there. But I'm also like curious about like after it grabbed you, what inspired you to then kind of make your own work? What around you was starting to get you to kind of document in the way that you do? What inspired you to start making work?
Well, I think I just need it, I think it still is the reason I still work. It's because I need, and I always felt, even if I was not having consciousness of that, need to express myself. So myself, and it's not just myself, it's the my relation with the things, so my relation with the world. So I started to work in this place where I come from, because in certain point, I was moving out of there, and I wanted to go out just totally. I could not support to be there anymore. It was too close to, I needed to know things, to know the world, to add new things into my life. But this place, it was always in my life, because my family was living there, so I had to return there very often. But so this, I felt in some way that my relation with this place was changing, because it was not meaning anymore the same for me. So photography actually allows me to work on this relation with this new place. So it's somehow like serve me to work in the things that I to process things, to digest things. I think that's why I started to work into photography, and in general in what I do now. It's like to help me to process the things that I don't know how to lead with them. And so I started to do this work in the place where I come from. Because it was important for me to keep going to the same places, the same fields, the same trees. But I was changing my look to these things, because I was another person and with another life. And photography was helping me with that, actually. That's why I started to do that.
That's interesting. So do you, in your work and stuff, did you start to kind of like seek out like other artists and people like that? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I was never very much into this thing of following an artist. I don't know why. Just I like that to be open that other things come somehow, and also think I don't know, it can be a bit dangerous in the way that somehow you can even if you don't think about this, you can start to follow his way and not yours, and I think it's important that we keep
I've heard that before, actually.
in our way.
Yeah. I don't want to be influenced. Yeah. I hear that all the time.
I mean, we are, of course, we are influenced in everything in life. It's impossible, and it's good.
Sure.
I mean, and it's good, of course, it's good. But what I mean is like, I prefer that you just keep things from different areas, not even just from photography. But of course, when I started doing photography, photographers like Diana Arbus, I think it was like touching me very much at this point, or Paulo Nuslino. There is this Portuguese photographer when I was more in this black and white thing. But then, of course, the movies of I don't know, Tarkovsky or Bellatar, it's more like more than a reference. It's like somehow you feel like it's something familiar, that it's touching you. You feel like you are sharing something somehow. It's saying something to you, and I like very much this thing of art and life to mix together somehow. So, like, there's this Portuguese painter Paula Rego that I know you cannot look at a paint of her and being, you feel things. It's so powerful that you feel things. Or I don't know, when I found the work of Marina Abramovic too, I know this how life, and art are, and well, but I think it's more like, and of course, poetry.
You can also, like, in this question, you can also talk about, some of the literature too, because it sounds like literature was big for you, and you could definitely talk about that too if you want.
Yeah. Well, actually, in poetry, I'm very much into Portuguese works. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why, but I think it's probably it's because they are in poetry. I think it's even more important that you are reading the same thing that the writer wrote, in not a translation, if it's better, even if it's very good. So we have poets like Daniel Faria that I love, or Herbert Welder, or there's a lot actually. Yeah, and I think all of these things just come in my head in a big,
It makes sense. I love it. It's like I think I like to know that kind of stuff. So I'm getting a little visual. I love the painting reference. I totally agree with you about the poetry not doing anything in translation. It's like, as I learn more French, I'm actually reading more French literature, and my word, I love it. And I can imagine, your first language is Portuguese, so you're reading Portuguese poetry, and I bet it's amazing. I'm thinking about another poet as well that I really enjoy, but it's a Persian poet. I think it's Hafez. And correct. I'm sorry, anyone that I actually have a few Persian followers, so I apologize to you directly if I messed that one up. But the writing itself, as far as the turn of phrase, the way things are being said, the symbols that they use, it's all cultural. It's also language based. So it makes complete sense. And so now I'm like, you're making me want to learn Portuguese so I can read some of this poetry.
Yeah, I can tell you more because I'm not very good with names. So normally when I need to remember them, they just run away.
Yeah. So,
I can send you.
of course. But of course, I would do the translation. But then,
Yeah.
but that would
Or
be
you learn
terrible. Don't
Portuguese.
do that. What's that?
Or you learn Portuguese.
Or I will learn Portuguese. It is a Latin based one, so I might be able to do something with it. I do pretty well in Italian, and in a little bit in Spanish, but Portuguese is kind of a mix of all of it. So,
You are not
well,
that far away.
go with that.
You are not that far away anymore.
No, not anymore. Yeah. But it's one of those things that I think it's like super important. So, I think this is a great opportunity for us to kind of start jumping into some of the work. You kind of talked a little bit about your background. You talked about how you found your way into photography, some of your influences. So I feel like, we can start looking at some of this. I think you want to start us off with some of your early work, correct?
Yes.
And you want to start at the end and work our way back. It's up to you.
Yeah, maybe I start from the beginning and then I will jump.
Yeah, I love that. I think I'm really curious to kind of see how all that kind of makes its way into work. I've kind of had a little bit of this is I've kind of done a little cheating, so I've already looked at kind of your work and where and read up on you a little bit, but kind of hearing your story and letting you unfold that for our audience, I think is really special too. So let's go ahead and jump into that.
Yeah, and let's try if I can do this. So in this, I have the map of the place where I come from, and the image of me and my dog in the place where I come from. And I chose this. Yeah, because it's important for two reasons. First of all, because most of the work that I do until now, or I did until now, it was done in this place, and a second because it's also the fact that I was growing up in this place. I think it's influenced a lot the way I see the world and my vision and what I do in the artistic field. Also, like that, the map, it looks like a heart somehow with a bit of imagination. So
I like it. It looks like it has veins and everything. And it remind me of the name of the town.
Ponte Lima.
Okay.
That it means bridge over Lima. That it's the river, the name of the river that crosses the village. Yeah. So like I said before, I started just to trying things, when I came into photography, in the place around, the exploring this place around my parents' house, even the house and just for fun, actually. Also saying that it's important in my process to have always some kind of notebooks, or that I'm all the time like writing or adding things into it. It can be like, things from the environment. And I like to construct some kind of archive of the place where I'm working. So this helped me to clear my ideas, to to define better what I am doing and what I want to do. And somehow also to make me company, I guess, because it's a lonely process, to photograph. I'm normally alone. So this keeps me company somehow. So it's just random images that I do, even if I'm not working in a project.
So what do you mean? What do you mean by that? Keep you company?
Yeah, I think it's that. It's really that. Normally I'm alone, and somehow it's easier to I don't know. That's one thing. It's a good question. I don't know how to answer that. But one thing is to be alone in your brain thinking,
Yeah.
Other thing is when you are writing or, just constructing something, I think the ideas just gain own existence, so somehow they are not inside of you anymore, they are outside, and being outside, they have a presence. So I think for me this is, it's like to be in touch with something else that is not just my brain. I know it's not.
Yeah. Do you often go through your notebook and reread what it is you write?
Normally not.
I'm always curious about that because I don't either. I make sketches every once in a while. I will, but it's interesting, and it's interesting how you're kind of incorporating it, like you're scanning it, like they become objects to you.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't go back. It's like they did that job already,
I've heard that before too. Like I also feel that way about it. It did its job. You know what I mean? Like it's just interesting to hear someone else say that. I'm like I think there's something there about that question. So proceed as if I might have another question about that, because I feel like these two things are your photography and your writing in this. It's almost like a journaling practice, that you have that is like they're connected somehow.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious how that's making its way.
Yeah. So just this image, I want to say that for me it's also important to somehow to involve the whole body when it's some kind. I think I don't know very much how to explain that, but I don't like that the photography is just a thing that I make with my head, so it's important to use the whole body. And I think normally, so that's why normally I use myself when I need to work with a person or somebody that is very close to me. I like to feel somehow like it can be like not be comfortable. I don't know if this makes sense, but I need to be in some kind of vibration that I'm really feeling what I am doing, and this feel has to be with the whole body. It's not just intellectual thing.
Yeah, well, it makes sense why the writing. It's the physical act of thinking in a lot of ways. Yeah. It's a very physical act because you're literally translating it into a form,
Yeah.
So in photography is kind of the other way. It's through the eyes, it's like it's still physical, right? You're still like crafting, but I think that's really, really interesting. I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. So continue if you wish.
So just go fast for this is the first project that I call it a project, and it was how I was saying before. It was like when I move out from this place to study, and then I started to come back, and I saw that this relation with the place and what I was feeling was changing too. So I developed this work, but like I told you, it was not like something that I was thinking very objectively. It was just taking some notes, as photographers. Photography, they are more like notes from this place, and I started to do that very much into this emptiness, into this loneliness place full of animals. Actually, it's since people it's getting old and dying, the place is becoming more and more empty, and so most of all the images are made around my parents' house or even in their house. And
it's interesting. It's like, are you living here at this time, or are you traveling there?
No, I was traveling at this time.
So you're going back, and so
yeah. I don't know. I left with 17 years old, and I never went back to live. full-time living. I go there very often, like every weekend or two weekends.
Did
So
a lot of your friends and do a lot of the younger people do that?
to go back.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, in a lot of small towns, one of the things that I'm starting to notice is that a lot of the younger generation or the kids, they'll go off to school or whatever, but they just won't come back. They kind of go and they come back to visit, but rarely do people stay. Is that kind of what's going on there? Is that what you're noticing?
Yeah, well, I guess the problem to go back and stay is it's about what you will do. No, there's no jobs. No, there's no possibilities to work. That's why people go out. So it's not very often that people go out to study and they come back to live there. No, it's just they will do it later or because it's not possible to work there. So
that's interesting.
It's a small place. It's not happening, but it's normal that people go there very often because normally the whole family is there, so to visit the parents and even in Christmas or something.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah,
that's interesting. And you're kind of reflecting on that. I think in your own way, you were talking about this idea of loneliness, this idea of it kind of like emptying out, and I'm kind of curious if you've thought about why and what's causing that, and but at the exact same time, you're kind of watching this place that's important to you change, and so like I'm curious if you've reflected on it. Number one, on the reasons, but on the other end, you could choose either one of these questions to answer if you want. Is that affecting you? Is it like impacting you? Is it worrying you? You're photographing it, so I'm kind of curious what's inspiring you there.
Well, I'm not photographing exactly the place,
Yeah.
Actually, even I work there, but it's not about there, I mean, this work,
interesting.
This work, yes. But everything that I did after that, I did it there, but it's not about there. It's just, just because, the fact that I know this place so well and it means so much to me. It was like somehow a big open outdoor atelier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I have all the tools that I need to work, even if it's not working about this place. But I have this vibration. I have this connection. I work very much, of course, in this relation of humans and nature. So I have everything that I need, but I don't feel that I'm doing a work about this place because it makes no sense for me, because it's not, it has nothing that is very exclusive. It's a place that you can find the things that you find there, you can find in another place,
Sure.
But it's more the thing that, you need to feel comfortable somehow in your atelier, when you are working. You need to feel this energy of the place, and I feel there, so that's why I work there.
Interesting. So
it's more.
I think you're going to talk about it a little later, so I'm going to let you go as you wish. But I think I love I come from the United States in Texas, and so I love the animal and farms and ranches and stuff. I'm a big fan of it, and I love this aesthetic, and I love this horse image too. So big fan. So keep going. I think you're going to answer a little bit more of my inquisitive, my questions here as we go here. So
I'll try. So yeah, well, So, but this was the beginning, and then later I developed this work, and I think I will talk a bit about that because I found that it was really important work in my way, and so in 2016, I guess, I was participating in a creative laboratory of a Cyclop platform in Porto. So the idea was to develop a work during a year, I guess, and then to do exhibition, a collective exhibition with that. And for me, it was important because for two reasons. First of all, before that, I was working very much alone, by myself, just trying things and not knowing exactly what I was doing. Just more, like in this intuitive, but also naive way. And no, and alone that was okay, but you also need to share the things that you are doing with someone. You need to have this exchange of energy. So it was the first time that I was working in a group, and so we're like 10 people, and we were all working. So it was like that's a laboratory that we could develop our own project, but in connection with others. And that was, the first time that I felt this energy of creating something together, this creative energy. And I was really, really very enthusiastic in this period with photography. And I ended to develop this work that I did it with my mother. So again, in that place. And that was also very important and very transformative. And I think photography also has this for me, this it's not just photography, but the relation you do it, you have with the things that you are working with. It's also very important. It's not just about the image that you will have on the wall later, but all the process, the people that you meet, and can be really transformative. And actually, this work was very important in the relation with my mother. And first of all, I never imagined that she could accept this, because normally she says no to everything. So you can ask a thing and which she starts with no, and then after that, no. So actually, it was it was important because it was also the moment when they realize, they family and they neighbors, that photography was important for me. It was not just something that I do, So it was the project that lead me to them to accept me or saw me as an artist. So it was very meaningful in this relation with her because, it was very much like a construction of being patient, to know what is her limits. Some days she was like totally not in the mood, and I need to be very much into this, conquer her, Sometimes she was just, because for her, this was not making sense. So in the end, it was also a lesson of love, I guess, this thing that we say, that's the mother's love, and I felt it here because, and I was not expecting that, but I really felt like, okay, this is mother's love, because it's that point that you don't understand what is happening. You don't even, you don't care. But if it's important for the other person, I will do it. And it was very beautiful, actually. And as a creative process was also very, it was transformative because before that, I was, the only thing I was doing was like to, taking picture of the things that I was seeing, exactly how they were. I was not, I was just, they were there, and I was making a registration of that. In this work, I found this very nice thing. I can touch the things, I can move them. And this was a totally, different universe. It was like something totally new, like a Pandora box that just opens, that actually I realized that this would serve me much better. I was not very much interested into documentary reality. What for me it's more important is to create other realities, and so this was totally different thing for me, because I realized that I can play with other things. So it was adding me other tools, the horizons, So I played with this light and shadow, with these cuts, sometimes moving things from, it's not very much, I'm not constructing an image, but totally new, based the thing of interfering in what I was seeing. And this was more important for me. And I understood that this is my, my land. This is my place, it started in this work, actually. And another thing that is normally people ask me is why not seeing her face. Well, again, it was not a decision at all. I just started to work, and I started to see that I was never showing her face. And then in the end, I just accepted that. And then I was thinking, but why this? For me, this is normal, And I think it's because, it's with my mother, but I don't need that this works is about my mother, It's just there's this connection, this maternal, connection, but it can be with another mother in another place, in another, So it's more universal thing. When you show a face of someone, it's like somehow you are putting a stamp, It's like
100%. Oh, absolutely. It's got its own identity.
Yeah, it's more like I like more this not identifying. It's more to be something that is more open and more universal, or somehow.
Do you kind of see yourself in these images?
See myself?
Yeah.
What you mean? Like
yeah. So there's no face, right? And there is of course, between you're the photographer, and then you have your model or subject, and it's your mother. So there's definitely a relationship there. But since it is kind of ambiguous, there's no really any true identity. Do you kind of see yourself in any of these images?
Yes.
Is it a reflection of you at all?
Yeah, actually, some images. It's like this work has little secrets. I can tell. This image actually, it's myself. Where is it? Not the horse, but
of course.
But this one actually, it's me, not my mother. I have some small secrets. I like to play with this.
Of course.
But I know that it was not this that you were meaning. But yes, of course, I see myself here too.
Yeah, maybe it's almost one of those kinds of mirrors. You're kind of. It's so interesting that you got your mom to participate. How did she feel about the end result after you were done?
She doesn't understand, of course. She doesn't care at all.
Not at all?
No. I mean, she's happy that I'm happy.
Yeah. That's the mother's love you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's totally full. You're like, wow, again? No, not at all. But actually, that's a very funny story about that. I can tell you, because it's very much about my mother too, because she's a very practical person, So I don't, I'm not like her. This interest in art comes from my father, not my mother. It's a person of, fits. on the land, and very practical. So I made a book out of this work. It's a small book, just a very short edition. And I dedicated, it's not here, I dedicated it to my mother, of course. But since it was a very, my first work that I did with her, I was a little bit, nervous to show her the book. I didn't know how she would react. I was a bit embarrassed, So I just one time I went there for visiting them, and I just left the book, in her room that then she could see, without me, and and then later I would just ask her what she thought. And so I went away I was living, not in Porto at this time, I think, or I was living in Porto. And during the week I called her and I asked her, so what, did you saw the book? And she was like entering a shop, to buy something. And she was very fast talking. And she said, yeah, I like it. And what? Do you have something else to tell me? And, in the, I had I dedicate the book to her, and I wrote something that is, to my mother, not knowing how to say love, she learned its motion. So I wrote this, and the only thing she said was, yeah, I like it. You wrote that I don't know how to make love. And I said, no, my God, it was not that. No, I was like, not. No, my God. So she was just, reading this very fast, and she just kept that I wrote that it's my mother.
That's priceless. Because it's very poetic what you said there. If you look at it practically, that's exactly what you said.
Yeah, it is too poetic to her, It was too poetic to her. She was not. I don't know how to make love. Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Oh my God,
that's genius. That is really good. That's really funny. That is. I bet that is an obstacle, but how beautiful is that relationship that even that even though she doesn't understand what it is you were doing and why you did it, or even how it came to be, she still did it for you. And I just think that's amazing. Not everyone will do that. Not everyone will do that. So the fact that she kind of did it, even though she didn't understand it, is, number one, it's kind of brave, but it also shows how much she cares about you. So I think it's a beautiful thing. And she's going to have that later, and you will too,
I think she's proud, she's proud. But she doesn't accept this. I'll say that. She's
yeah, she's probably analyzing it very practically, like, what is this? What good is this for? What is this for? Yeah. So you got to turn it into a book, which is really cool. Were you always thinking about book? Because I think the project started out as a year project and then an exhibition, but you got to turn it into a book. Was that something you get? Talk to me about that.
No, this was, there was an open call of this publisher from Porto. So this was the results of this open call. So they will do to select a project, and they do. I think they do it very often, and so that was why I had the books. But it was very small, just edition. But of course, it was nice to have the work in a book. Even if it's really small, and the edition is very special to keep like the first serious project, let's say, in a book, of course.
That's awesome. And so talk to me about, so you had this project. How did this project kind of help you change or evolve? Did you immediately feel like you had to do another project? So talk to me about how this kind of turned into the next one.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, I don't think very much about the things. So it just happened. After that, after this project was also, that won a prize that was this FNAC award. So it had some kind of view. And of course, I was very happy to keep working. And I normally, I can, well, I like that one thing follows another thing, but I don't like to have too much things at the same time. I need some kind of slow. But this project just happens very shortly after the other one, because there was an invitation to develop a work to the first Biennale of Photography in Porto. So that's why I did this work. So it was some kind of invitation. And otherwise, probably I would not do work so fast after, We can go very fast through it if you...
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. So the big subject of this was adaptation and transition. So the invited artist had to develop a body of work that could answer to that. So it was very much connected with this, ecological crisis and all these critical moments that we are facing. So I developed this work thinking how everything goes. For one side, we have this feeling that we feel safe if you are in control of the things. We try to do this with nature too. But on the other hand, everything is very fragile and very we live always in a transitory move, between one thing that is ending and another thing that is starting. So actually, this is the most natural state of the things, is these movements of transition. So I developed this work very much in this, somehow this provocative relation between human and nature or animals. Actually, it was also the first time I was working in color. And so this was like something that was not comfortable for me at this moment, but I wanted to try to do it because I like to put myself in a place that it's not comfortable, to try, and then I can see if it's not for me, but to try that. I think it's too bad.
It's interesting. It's like, what did you think? What were your thoughts? Because you've been doing black and white, and then you started to do color. What were your thoughts?
I like. Now I even.
That's it.
I don't have very much to say.
Yeah.
So
it does change things, So like, it adds another level of interpretation. I think you do a really nice job. I really like you really play with like what I'm trying to say here is highlights and shadows. You really have heavy blacks, and you still carry that even into your color images, which I like. And then you have these little pops of color. That one image across the top there in the field, where it looks like, was that a sandstorm?
Yeah.
Or smoke, or it was like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a very specific place around, there was old mine, I guess, of, I don't know how to say in English, but the thing was that there was a fire around, and this activates this thing again. So the ground was just expelling this white smoke and the orange thing, that was the fireman trying to put this down, So it was not a collection of not healthy things.
It's a great image. It's I love the colors, and so I was just curious, if it added any more, if it, because some people think it's a challenge, to do color photography, and especially when you start out in black and white and then you move into And then some people love it so much that they have a hard time going back to black and white. And so
Right.
it's interesting. Like if it changed for you, but it seems like you were still able to do what you wanted to do, and it really didn't change much for you, which is fantastic. So
Yeah, I don't felt. I mean, of course, that was a new way of being seeing the things. Of course, it changed.
yeah, of course.
But like I told you, I like to try things. I don't like very much this. No, I will just do this way. At least now, but I like that the artist is free that to try different things.
I like too how you're not. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead. Continue.
Or keep doing the same. I mean, it's okay, both things. I don't. Of course, it's totally different to work in color, but for me, it's not like now I cannot go back to black and white. I can go back to black and white. I like black and white too. I even like to mix both. It's totally okay. Yeah.
I enjoy how you don't overthink things. You don't like you're literally are just kind of just allowing the process to kind of go as you wish, and you allow yourself to explore, and you're not really overthinking. And I like that. There's a freedom. Do you find that that's what attracts you to art? Is that kind of ability to kind of let go and be free?
Totally.
Is that what it is?
Totally. I think with the thing of being curious, as I said, the other thing that it's very important to art is the freedom.
Yeah.
It's totally. You have to feel free. You have to be free. And you can be free to do the same thing the whole life, It's freedom to keep the same, but it's freedom to choose what you want, and I mean, it's okay. And until now, but I don't like this idea like I will stay like this forever. I know I like the idea that the things can change. I will change, probably my work too, or not. But I like the thing of a possibility.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I think you have had some really cool opportunities to kind of get your work out there and then evolve with the medium and allow yourself to expand. I think it's amazing. So you take me to the next project. You said this was kind of it seems like a brief footnote on there, and then you kind of ended up in the next project. So talk to me about how that came to be and what you were thinking when you were putting together this series. And I love your titles. Where do they come from? It's also your poetry. So like, talk to me about that too.
Yeah, the titles normally are also important for me. It's a part of the project, and yes, I think they come from the poetry. Everything that I write during I am photographing. So normally sometimes sometimes they just come in the end, or from a sentence or from a poem or whatever. It happens like in the last project that I will show you, that the project started in this case with the title. So the title just came in the first, and then the work just was, I needed to develop a work because I had a title, the opposite.
I've heard that before. Some people, they immediately have a title and then they start to work. Others, they'll just be working and then all of a sudden a series is there and then the title comes. And so that's interesting.
Because in this case, the title is related with the history, with the story. Yeah. So
it is.
Yeah, but in this case, no. I thought about this title because it's related with the subject that can go through that very fast. It was a very short period of residency that I did in a salt fields in Portugal. So again, it was like an open call to this to make this residency, and so, like I was telling you before, it was the first time that I needed to work in a specific place. everything that I did before that, I could, I could choose where I would work here. And this project was very, very, very short. So it's more like, it's not a project, it's more like a body of images, a series. But it was important because it was like, again, putting myself in a new situation. And this situation was like, I could just work in this place. So I needed to, it forced me to create a relationship with that. So the idea was to develop a work about the salt fields. And I learned a lot of things about how to produce salt. And it was a very magical place, and so that was also another thing that was hard for me. It was to I had a short period of time, and I need to develop a work in this in this time. So for me, in the beginning, it was very difficult because I was very it was very beautiful, everything. And I felt like I can do nothing here because it's so beautiful. It's impossible. There's nothing to do. It's just bring people here to spend here time, and had so much layers to this because, to produce salt in the traditional way is very much connected with the nature. So it's very poetic, actually, because the thing is just learn the level of the water, the salty water on the marines. So, and then wait that the sun can take the water out and just leave the salt. So the salt, in the end, it's like some kind of a memory of the sea. The sea needs to disappear and just leave the remains that is the salt. So thinking about all this, it was so strong and so poetic, so beautiful, and because it's a very hard work to develop something that's so fragile, so white, so pure. And even the wind can totally determine how the salt crystals will look like. So it's everything related with atmospheric conditions and everything. So so it was hard.
I can imagine. So it's like I've heard that also too before. It's like I don't want to. This place is too beautiful. It's hard for me to photograph because I feel like I'm just doing postcards,
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I capture that? So how did you work with that? What did you end up doing? I see you kind of like started to kind of really get really tight and work your way out. Is that what you ended up doing? So talk to me about what you did to kind of your strategy, or was there a strategy? Because I think you just kind of do everything from intuition.
Yeah.
How did you work on that problem, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't have a strategy. Very much.
I love that, by the way. I'm like one of those people that needs it. I need to know, what am I going to do? What's my brief? But there's a freedom there. That's amazing.
It was very much about spending a lot of time there, walking lots, getting very dirty, because this for example, in these images, you can under this, it's totally a black earth, and if you put your feet there, you will be totally full of black dust and everything.
Yeah.
And for one side, I wanted to show this fragility, like in this image, that you feel how fragile is this, you have to learn how to take this salt very carefully, that you don't damage it, I wanted to see this, to show these layers of time too. For example, this is like an old marine. It's not producing salt anymore. So what happens is like it's creating this surface of I don't know, like organic materials that looks like a fabric. It's really special. I never saw this before.
Oh, wow.
And so it's some kind of there's no salt anymore, but it's still
Making
alive.
Yeah.
Still alive. It's full of things, and you don't see, but you still have shells, and the sea is really far away. So it has this layer of memory of absence of something, and I wanted to work with that. And some kind of relation is something that it's more universal now. Some kind, it looks like some galaxy, some things,
Yeah.
this salt are in this image. So I like to also connect to this universal thing that because it is activity that's very connected with the history of humanity. It's a very old thing. It was really important, salt. It was like a exchange to make exchange, like before having
something to trade. Yeah,
really old, and so.
That's interesting. It's like so that when you talk about producing, is it something that's like it fills up seasonally and then it drains, and then when it dries out it creates salt, and it does this yearly, or is that what's happening there?
Yeah, it's done during the summer. So in the summer, during the winter, people prepare the fields in a special way. But it's done during the summer month. So
it dries out during the summer.
Yeah, they put there the water. They built a long time ago channels that brings the salty water from the
Gotcha. Oh,
yeah. There. But the sea is really, so the salty water comes through the river, and then through these channels. There is like a labyrinthic channels until this place. Then you have to learn how the level of the water has not to be too high or too low. It's very much connected with the moon. So in a full moon you have to do something. In a new moon you have to do another thing. And then it just waits that it's very warm, and the sun just evaporates.
Yeah, evaporates all the water, and it just leaves
leaves
the salt. That is fascinating, and wow, that's so cool. And I can understand the moon stuff because the gravity, and changes things, and
and the level of the water.
Yeah, it'll rise. Oh, that's so cool. I would probably. I love that kind of stuff. I'm like, ooh, science. Oh, that's just amazing. And so you got that opportunity to go out there, and what a blessing, and what a challenge too, huh? And
to learn a lot, because I knew nothing about salt, just used to cook.
Yeah. And who knew there were farms for it, right? Like, that's amazing.
No, I knew that there were, but I knew that there were farms of that. We have a lot. Yeah. We have some in Portugal, not just this place. But I didn't know. I knew how this works, and it's magical. And now, of course, there's an industrial process too that accelerates that. Because like this is, it's very, it can be really sad because, I had this experience during I was working there. That is, you can spend a lot of time working on that, every day you have to go there, you have to be, adjusting the layers, the water level. And so this takes like a long period to have salt. But then if comes like a storm or, rain, it destroys everything. So it can be really sad because you can work a lot and in the end you don't have anything. Of course, now with the industrial things, they try to avoid this possibility of error.
And control the environment so they can get a the results.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the traditional way is totally connection with the nature, what nature brings you. That also can
Wow.
takes you, you know.
It could, as much as it brings, it can take. Yeah, that's amazing. That's a fascinating opportunity. And I love how too it is kind of helping you evolve the way you work and the way you think about place and the way you think about photographing something. And so you have one final project you're going to show us, which is the one you're currently working on, right? You're still,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that one.
Yeah, like I told you, this is the work that started with the title. And yeah, and so again, I come back to this region where I come from, and I'm creating this work. I'm still working on it, and hopefully it will be a book next year. And so I was focused in three things. First of all, in this in this connection, very close between the people that is living in this place and the natural, and again the cycles of nature, and also the cycles of life and death. And so the whole life, because we are talking about people that still live from farming, and so they are creating the things that they will feed them. So of course the whole life, the during the day, everything is very connected with the seasons, so there's some things that you do in the winter and you don't do on summer. And also the very much focused in this feminine universe. That's because I was raised by three women somehow, my mother and my two aunts, because my father was outside working, and this was happening in other families. So at this time, like in 70s, 80s, we had a big amount of people, men that went to another countries to work. So in the end, it will be just the women and with the kids that were living there. So for me, I have this very strong reference of women. And also this another thing that interests me was as like a pagan and some sacred connection in this environment, that there is a presence of some kind of spirituality. I don't know how to say this.
Spirituality, yeah.
Yes,
Spiritual.
and that comes from some people believe that they have some kind of power. Normally, it's women again, that to predict death, how when someone will die, they can feel it and they have some kind of visions or something. So I grew up with all that, with all these histories, all this information, and so this for this project, I decided to work with that, to use that in a work, because I always felt very connected to this, not to understand how this works, probably it's imagination, but I was curious how everything, all these layers, survive, and coexist, and so people have a normal life, even if they believe they see when that person will die, And for me, this was always very curious, how, what is reality, what is not. This is not important, it's more like how such a different dimension can coexist in the same place. So this lead me to this work. Okay, there is bone foam. I can then explain why. And for example, so there's images that like I build somehow. There's some that I just find, And this image is very special because normal people thinks, oh yeah, you put there the orange, so this is one of the images that you are doing something, but I did nothing. And so for me it's like some kind of a miracle too. And because this project is very much into this like mystical thing too. I love this image because when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, why is this there? Because I know this place very well. There's no orange tree around. It's not an obvious place to put orange, it's not easy to reach this place. So this image, it was really in the beginning of the project, and I was not sure if I would do that. And then for me, it's like my miracle image, like, oh, okay, so I should keep doing, because I found a miracle. I mean, I can, of course, someone
wonderful contrast. It's image wise, it's a great contrast, but it's interesting that, do you think somebody was like just getting rid of them or like throwing them away? Like,
I don't know.
And why would they put them there? Like,
I think there was aliens, actually.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. No, anytime an alien theory comes up, I'm like, yes, exactly. Yeah, it's exactly who did it.
Normally they put orange now.
Yeah, well, yeah, they were like, oh, we got a little too much. Yeah, let's leave it here for somebody. Yeah.
I'm kidding. But I have no idea. Probably it was a neighbor, but I don't know why. I don't know why. No idea at all. But of course that.
Oh, it was great for you, no? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think this image can be like a synthesis of the project. There is something like you don't know exactly how this works, or if it's true or not. But okay, just accept it.
It was for you. It was almost like something for you. Yeah. Yeah. How it got there, who knows? Who cares? But that's interesting.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
And this kind of religion thing. Again, my mother, poor. And I focus very much in this, like I told you, in the women and how they are responsible for this thing that is to feed the family. So they are responsible normally for growing the things that will feed the ones that they love. So it can be vegetables or animals. So like the idea of the women, that it's the person who generates, who takes care, who kills too, but in order to feed. So I think this primordial act of feeding, it's an act of love somehow. So this
for sure
means a lot for me too. Mm-hmm. And these like magical environments, some sacred too or pagan, and this thing of to die and to reborn, something that is dead that becomes alive again.
I do see a parallel here between like your approach to photography and now your current project. And there's like I've used this word already to describe your approach, which is very like intuitive. It comes from a place of feeling. And often, like, spiritual things come from a feeling, an understanding that's not necessarily always practical. Do you feel like you're on to something? Do you feel like you're like kind of landing on something that is kind of exactly where you're supposed to be? Do you feel like this is where you have always been heading? Do you understand what I'm saying here?
I guess so.
Drawing you here, I guess. What do you think is drawing you to this subject? Why do you feel like you're coming here? Just just as a reflection per se.
Yeah,
It doesn't even have to be practical.
Yeah, well, I think, like I told you, he's connected with the history, with the title that I can tell you later. And so for me, I like to work, with the personal things, even if then they are not personal, they are of the world somehow. But for me, I like to start the things with personal things, personal, even if then they are not, normally this history that connects the title. I don't tell this history normally because I don't think that the work needs that. But for me, it's important. So this work just began like a tribute that I wanted to make to my aunt and to all these women that are living such experiences, and they don't. It's more like a tribute of something that to live in something that it is not important if it's real or not. Just is a suggestion, something that it's can be a possibility, or everything is like all these layers survive into something that we call reality. But then what is reality? What is true or not? So for me, it's like kind of a tribute of something that is important for me, that it's more, I live more in this field of symbolic things or poetic things, or even if it's just coincidence, or even if it's just imagination. I don't care. I think this is so important. I think it's where there's still a bit of magic, and magic is really important in life. Otherwise it's just it's impossible to live if you don't believe in things that exist and you don't understand them. And for me, I was always very attached to the things that I don't understand, because I think it's there that it's really the magical. Because otherwise it's just oh, this works like that, okay, and well, and what? So I like this this mysterious place of doubts.
That's what I'm looking for. That's the answer I was looking for. I was curious, like what's drawing you to this. It's like this and sometimes I'm seeing this contrast between your mother and yourself, but this very practical thinker, and then you've also got this very kind of abstract way of thinking, which often drives it. Like I'm this way, and so I'm relating in some way. When you can think that abstractly, it also drives you towards the mystical. You start seeing magic in things. You start to kind of pull that. But you walk these two worlds. It seems like you are. This. When you grow up in a small town on a farm and stuff like that, it's very practical. It's survival. You gotta do what you got to do in order to live. But then you also get this opportunity to kind of live in this other abstract way, especially through art. And so I kind of see you working with those two themes, and it's very personal. You're playing with both, and I love it. And I'm kind of curious. Take us through some more, and I'm kind of curious to see what else you got going. And we have a few more here.
Yes. I like this image too, not because of the image itself, but because of the meaning. It's like normally I collect bones that I find because it's normal. There's wild animals, and so I just found these and two of them, and I like it's me, and I like what this represents. Somehow it's like something that I take from not alive animal anymore, but had a life. and had a history, and now I am using this, and someone else will see it somewhere. All these layers of lives and past, and crossed the things that just are all put in one piece in one photograph. And,
yeah. It's interesting. It's like, I love how you're kind of playing with the different symbols. Do you think your literature is kind of influencing this work, your love for literature?
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sure.
Where do you see it show up the most, do you think?
Well, I cannot identify, but of course it is. But here more, I think in this work more than literature is more these things that I told you, that these histories of the people that had these visions of the death of someone. I have, one of these persons was my aunt. She's not alive anymore. And I collect these experiences, so I record them when I was younger, and so but everything was very beautiful actually. So they were not afraid about what they were seeing. Most of the histories, they could be like parts of a Tarkovsky movie, Yeah, they were everything. All the visions were very poetic. They were not like scary or something.
Yeah.
And they were involving very much these elements. So, for example, this image is, it's related with one of these episodes, because my aunt said that when she was small, she saw her mother that died some days after, and so she saw her through the window outside carrying water in his skirt, But then she found out that she was not there. She was in somewhere else, So, but all the images were very poetic, and very connected with the elements, or water or fire, And so it comes more of that actually.
Oh, you're retelling the stories. That's I'm kind of it's interesting. Yeah. That's cool.
And you could see this in a movie, like Tarkovsky or Berlin.
Yeah.
No? Oh, everything comes from everywhere.
Yeah.
And,
I think it's fun. I think it's an interesting deviation from where you were before, and like I said before, that the intuitive nature by which you're picking your subject and deciding to photograph, and it's pretty interesting, and I like it. I think it's an interesting evolution for you. In this project, I'm curious about your thoughts, kind of as this is taking form. How do you feel like you're ever going to be done with it, or is it something that you're working on for a long time? What are your thoughts on it?
I don't think very much about it, actually. I don't like to. Actually, I don't think very much about closing projects.
Interesting.
Because actually, I don't feel very much like a difference between them. Of course, the Salt project, it's different because it's another place, but the rest of them, I don't see them like isolated things. I prefer to see them like a live organism. So for me, it's totally okay to come back to one project later, or even to take some images that are belonging to a series and cross them to another, put them in another thing. So I like this idea of just a live thing that I can, go back later or change or move places. So for me now, this project, I'm having a lot of fun. Actually,
it seems like it. I like the variation. Yeah.
Still the thing that makes me want to keep is I have fun, It's, I need for on side, need, but I have fun. It makes me happy. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm such a fan of the mystical and these kinds of subjects, and I love those kinds of stories. I'm always been drawn to them, and so like I love this kind of subject matter. There is something about seeing the magic in things. It actually makes life more colorful, and more interesting, and I like how you're like trying to like capture that kind of mystique in your work, and how you've kind of gotten here. And it's interesting because it comes on the heel of this project came after the salt farm, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to kind of like think about like that, like this is one of the reasons I love history and seeing old processes, is because I think the fact that people figured out how to do a thing and have cultivated it in a way to where they've gotten so good at something that they can create a result, like farming salt. You know what I mean? I think that's mystical. I think that's magical. And to use the moon in order to do that, there's a magic in that. And then also in this other aspect, there's also that. And I don't know. I'm seeing some interesting connections there.
I didn't tell the history of the title. So the project started with the title because it's connected with a happening related to this aunt that I told you. She was living with me the whole life, and she was the one that she was a very spiritual, a very Catholic person, and very much into this, receiving these premonitions about life, about death, as I told you. And so when she died, some days before, she was not sick, but she was not a healthy person, but she was not sick. And one time I arrived there, and she told me that it was happening a miracle with her, and she told me the miracle she experienced, and I was like, oh, okay. And my mother was like, this makes no sense, she's getting crazy, blah 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 blah. But I was like, of course, if you experience that, who am I to tell you that this is not true, that this cannot be? Of course, if you had this experience, this exists, this is true, this is your reality, your truth. So of course I believe in that. And so some week later she died. And so and actually just by coincidence probably, but I find I have this as a very special moment in my life, because of course it was very hard time because we are not expecting that she were die, and she was a very close person to me. It was my like second mother, because she always lived with me. And of course I was really sad and a lot of things. And that was a moment when she was we were in she was in the chapel before she goes to be, how you say, to the earth.
Yeah.
That I was there with my mother and near the coffin, and so she was laying there, and suddenly just comes a small girl, very young, like 7 or 8 years old. That my mother didn't know her, I didn't know her, no one that was there knew her, and she just came near the coffin, and she started a very strange conversation. She saw me crying, and she was like, "Oh, don't cry, she's okay." And I was like, "Who are you? Why you came here?" And she said, "Oh, no, I'm not from here. My mother just stopped the car outside, and I saw that something was happening. And normally I like to see dead people," she said. A girl with 7 years old, it was really strange. And so she was with a very, not normal talk for a child. She was like, "Don't worry, it happened the same with my grandmother, like 3 months ago. She will be okay. She's she's okay. She's just a little bit cold." And I was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And in the end, she said, "But just to do something. Don't leave her alone. Don't leave her alone that night. She will not like to be alone." And I was crying, of course, like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And in the end, she said, "Look, it will be okay. She will become just bone and foam." And I was like, "Oh my God, this, I have to do something with this, like a tribute to all this that she believed. This coincidence, this was, I saw it like, something special." And in the end, she gave me a hug, and I asked her, "So can you just tell me your name?" And she said, "Maria," that it's my name. And it was also the name of my aunt. And, it's Maria, as for a Catholic person, as my aunt, it was very special. So yeah, it was a coincidence, but it made so much sense if you know who was, my aunt and all these things that she believed, that I said, "Okay, I will do this work for you."
That's amazing. That's a really interesting story. Just bone and foam.
Yeah. I don't
Have you
know
ever heard
what.
that before?
No, never.
Neither have I. The foam part, yeah, but the bone. But usually it's but shadows and dust. That's what I hear.
I don't
We're all
know.
but shadows and dust.
So young, so it was a child,
Yeah. Well, and to be attracted to funerals is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was really strange,
Really weird.
She was writing her name. Have a book where people that goes to the funeral,
Yeah.
they write their names, and she was writing her name too. So for a long period, I was going there very often to see if the name was still there or just disappear. Just like there was like a ghost or something.
Maybe you met the younger version of your aunt. That's interesting.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No,
I love
I don't
it.
think so, but
Maybe
you're like, oh my gosh, don't say that. Yeah. That's
this will
funny.
be a creepy
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. Now I can see what kind of sparked the project, and I love subject. As I said before, I love subjects like that. I think there is something about our time right now. I think where religion is becoming religion and or belief in a higher power seems to be slipping away from a lot of people. And maybe we do believe in it, but we don't. And I think we live in a very interesting time in that regard. And so, I think subjects like this, that bringing in the mystical, reminding people that there's something bigger than us, and that we can actually tap into that in some ways, is needed right now. I don't know if you feel that way, but I know you're just kind of following an intuition. But I think in a lot of ways, it is needed right now, and so I like it. I'm a fan. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I'm in. I can't wait to see how this turns itself into either an exhibition, a book, or whatever you decide to do with it. I'm curious to see where it goes. So I just have a few questions, final question for you, and we can stop sharing really quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, that evolution, seeing kind of like where you started and where you're at currently. I'm not saying ended, because it sounds like you're still going. It's really what's that?
Die soon.
No. Oh my gosh, don't
You
no.
feeling
I have
something?
not seen it. I have not seen it. No, you've got plenty more years in you, it looks like. So Yeah, no, what I was going to say though is you're acting as if you've been photographing. Well, it looks like you've been photographing your whole life. It's something that you've been called to, and the way you use it and in such a free form is really, really interesting. And it's inspiring to me, honestly. So, and I'm sure it's inspiring to others. And so I just want to just say, keep going. And I think what you're doing is really quite good. And I like how concise it is and how thoughtful it is. And it seems like it is definitely something that is being called to you directly. So I feel like you are definitely on the right path, doing something that is really, really important. So keep following it. That's all I want to say. So I just have one final question for you, and it's the one question I ask everybody. And maybe you might not feel like you can offer this, but I always like to ask for people that follow this show. It's a lot of them are image makers themselves, and they're makers themselves. And if you have any kind of advice that you want to offer people out there, if they want to be an artist, or I've been offering a second question just in case you don't want to give advice to people. What would you tell your younger self if you had the opportunity? What kind of advice would you give? And go. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Well, I'm not good in advices because I don't even have them for myself.
Yeah. I had a feeling, but maybe you could, like, if you could tell yourself, a younger self, something.
Yeah, but I can say that what I feel, at least for me, is important is to, if you are into creating art, I think at least for me, is important, and I think it is in general important that you are honest with yourself. That you are not following some trends or something. That does not come from yourself, and you don't believe in that. It's just something that it comes. You see around, but it's not coming. It's very important that that there's some truth on it, some honest approach. And I think this will probably make a difference, not where you will reach, but how long it will survive what you do, because I think this is important to not doing the job of other person, that you are doing your thing that it's really yours. It comes real from you. About the young Maria, well, I don't know if I would give her some advice. I'm quite good. I don't like this thing of going back and changing things or regrets or something. It makes not very much sense for me, because you don't have how to compare. You don't know what will happen if you go back and change one piece. It's real. You don't know how it will end it. So I'm quite okay and in peace with my path. My way. Of course, now for me, it doesn't make very much sense that I was spending 5 years of my life studying advertising. I would prefer to choose another thing to study. But of course, at this time, I don't know if I would be a more fulfilled person, a better artist that I am now, if I would go back and change that. Yeah. So I'm pretty okay, because we don't have actually very, everything that you choose in life, it's because a lot of things, you are not totally free for choosing, because it depends how you are at this moment, the context, the environment. So of course our decisions are totally controlled by that. They're not totally free.
Yeah.
So I think I will just say like something like less drama and more traveling. I was younger, and I know what I know. That's what I know now. Yeah.
I like that advice that you said, is just be honest, as long as with yourself, I think. And as long as it comes from an honest place, and you're not really chasing anybody. I really like that. I think that is really good advice. I love it. So this is the opportunity for you to share how people can connect with you, your website, if you have a book that you're trying to sell or anything like that, you can do that here. And also share your Instagram handle so people can follow you and see what you're up to.
Well, also my website is mariaoliveira.pt from Portugal. There's everything. So the connection to Instagram is there too. My email, the Instagram is also Maria Oliveira, but with underscores. I don't know exactly where, but from the website you can reach there easily. Exhibition I have now one, but it's in Portugal in Tomar with this bone foam work. If you want to visit Portugal and Tomar, go. And the book, hopefully next year we will have a book. And then I will tell you. And thank you.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad we finally were able to connect and get you on the show. It was definitely worth the wait. So thank you so much.
Yeah, in the end, my cat is not coming. She's sleepy. An opportunity to see her. But it's better like that.
We didn't get a cat appearance.
Yeah. Surprisingly not.
Well, that's amazing. Well, thank you once again. That was awesome.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And to all those that have made it this far, thank you so much for joining us on the Urbanaut Podcast. If you like content like this, please like, share, and comment down below. That is all very, very helpful, and it actually helps support the show. If you want to support us in a little deeper way, you can also consider becoming a member on our Patreon page and becoming a paid subscriber there, as well as joining us on Spotify and becoming a subscriber that way as well. So if you really love this content and want to help us in a little deeper way and help bring other new guests to us, that is a great way to support us. And as always, we'll see you next time.